Hey, everybody. I'm Peter Schallwalker. Welcome to the Queer and Cyber podcast. This is an experiment that we decided to run, and we'll see how it goes. This is our episode 0, the one that you throw out. But we're braver than that, and we know that only our friends are listening anyway. So thanks for listening or watching if you can. This is about queer people, LGBTQ, non-gender conforming people who work or want to work in the cybersecurity community. A little bit about me. I've been in cyber for about 25 years now. I'm pretty sure I've been bisexual my entire life. Spent about 30 of that in closet. I won't bore you with the story. It's as horrific as most of ours. What we want to talk about is where we are now, where we're going to go. The reason we wanted to do this was a lot of us have been have observed a kind of half out of the closet state that a lot of people live in cyber. We're tolerated, right? We hear compliments about queer people as, the best people on my team are gay or lesbian or whatever, but they are not allowed to actually talk about it, and they're not allowed to talk about their experiences. And what we want to do is create not just openness and tolerance, but acceptance and appreciation for who we are and what we bring. In order to do that, we have to understand it for ourselves and also be able to communicate it to other people. So, assuming we decide to keep doing this, and I think we probably will, you will see people from the community. We're not going to have allies on the show. Love you guys. You can listen, right? Your audience. This is for us. There's an incredibly rich history of podcasting and cybersecurity. Great stuff starting with Paul.com and Michael Santarcangelo Security Catalyst and things like that. Wonderful stuff. Very male, very heteronormative, and fine as far as it went. We wanted to have something for us and that addressed very clearly what happens at the intersection of queerness and cybersecurity and what we can bring that's extraordinary, the strengths that we can offer, the value that we can provide. What we're going to do today is I'm going to hand it off to Amber, and she's going to start with some conversation starting questions. But before that, I want to point out that we're still trying to figure this out. We have a lot of opinions, but what we want to land on is where do we want to go with this thing, and what do we want the world to look like if we're successful? So, Amber, you.
Exactly. And I'm going to take this opportunity to do a thing that we all end up doing all the time and say, Peter, I actually prefer they. So if you can say they are going to, that's what I would totally prefer.
I'm so behind on pronouns that don't have the habit yet.
Right? No, it's a practice thing, right? It's such a practice thing. And over again, we have to bring it up. If you have preferred pronouns like I do, and especially if you present very feminine or masculine on either side of that, it's a constant thing. But that's another episode. So we're going to talk today about why we're here. What do you think makes queer people extraordinarily valuable in our field? Because I think extraordinarily really does cover it. And then what would it mean to kind of succeed in our mission with this podcast as you see it? So we're going to go around the horn. We're going to talk about that a bit. It's going to be Peter, then Anna, then Ian, then myself. And as we go around this first time, please do share a little bit about yourself. Peter, you already did, so just jump right to the question. So, Peter, why are you here?
Yeah, I'm here because somebody needed to do it. Think you will of what you will of Gandhi. He was problematic, to say the least, but he had one zinger that I really like, which is be the change you want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. And people have been telling me a long time I should do a podcast. I'm like, I don't care about anything in particular enough to do. And this one matters.
Awesome.
We need to see each other's faces. We need to hear each other's voices. We need to know who's safe to talk to and who will support us so that we can create solidarity, right? And thereby develop our own power. The power to do good in the industry, the power to do good in the world, and the power to help each other out, especially in times like these where the economy is crazy in cyber. We're doing this, by the way, on the 3rd of April, 2024, and it's rough out there. Hopefully it comes back. And when it comes back, we're going to come back stronger with it. I think I'm going to say one thing that I think makes us especially valuable, and that is we are really good at reading a room and understanding. And this is typical of people who are from
We're going to do the
outsiders.
extraordinary thing
Oh, you want to go around?
next. Yeah.
Okay.
Just why are you here? I think you covered that, right? Feel good about
Yeah.
that answer? Awesome.
Yeah.
Anna, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us why you're here with us today.
Sure. So, hello everybody. My name is Ana Diaz. I am originally from Mexico City, came to live in the United States when I was roughly 16 years old, and I've been here ever since. Visit Mexico. Don't have a background in, I do have a background in criminal justice and cyber. So, I think it's putting security overall in the whole umbrella. That's a little bit of my background. Why am I here? I do want to bring light to us, right? We are a community that sees beyond what security tends to be related, right? We have a different mindset, we have different ideas that make us special, especially in the community, because we have to be alert also to different threats in the world. And so ultimately I want to have a space for people to feel welcome, to feel um, that they have a voice, and also to educate others, right? We don't know what we don't know, and sometimes when we're already in a closet, we already don't know many things. And let's come out together, let's make it safe. um and yeah, I'm here for that spotlight, right, for everybody in the community.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. And Ian.
See, why am I here? Partly because Peter asked me,
I knew you were
but
going to say that.
partly because I think it's important to it's important to identify yourself on some level. I'm not a big person about or uh, heavily focused on sort of identity politics or whatever, but I think it's important to be who you are. And I think it's important for people to see people like themselves, even though I probably don't look like a lot of my friends that are going to watch this. Um, I think also, oh, I didn't give my background either. So I've been in the tech industry for a very long time. I've been in the security industry for about 30 years, and it's changed a lot, and it hasn't changed at all. And I've seen, and I still see, women struggling to make a place for themselves in cybersecurity and be respected, or people of color trying to do the same thing. And I think that, I think we were sort of part of that. I think what's sort of ironic to me is that you need really diverse teams, diverse of thought and experience in security, like Anna was saying, because you need people that think differently and outside the box, but yet at the same time, it's a heavily sort of male field. And, I mean, I kind of hate the word heteronormative, but it is. Um, so I thought, I'm also very ornery and I disagree with people on a lot of things. And I think it's fun to have someone who isn't going to say the same thing as everybody else, or at least might get into an argument with somebody at some point. And there are certain issues in this context that I think don't get enough discussion. And I'm looking forward to some of the topics that we have planned and contributing to that. So
Awesome.
that's about it.
Thank you, Ian. So just to answer for myself, my name is Amber. I've been in tech my entire career. I got into cybersecurity about 12 years ago now, but I've loved it my whole life. Went to 2,600 meetings as a teenager, all of that. Um, actually,
That's a lot
also,
of meetings.
it's a lot of
Oh,
meetings. I know.
I
Har
roll my
har.
eyes.
We need sound bites. We need a
No, we
Mm,
don't.
yeah.
That would be nice.
We
there
need
you
a
go.
rim shot one. So
Hmm.
actually also have a background in criminal justice. Shout out back to Anna over there. We'll have to have a chat about that sometime. Got my degree in that. Um, but for me, why am I here? One of the things I noticed is that queer people who are in powerful positions minimize their queerness a lot of the time. If they are asked questions in interviews, if people focus in on it, they're like, well, that's just not what we're talking about today. That's not important to this. And all of us need it to be important to them, because for me, that answer feels just like all the times a white guy with a C in his title told me that titles don't matter.
That's powerful.
So that's why I'm here, because I'm just me. But you know what? I'm going to talk about this because everybody, so many powerful people in tech who had the opportunity to do so have not, because they don't want to rock the boat.
That boat needs some rocking.
That boat needs some rocking.
And here we are.
And here we are. All right. Now I'm going to let you answer this one, Peter. You started before.
You know, as we're going through, sorry, go ahead, Bruce. This is where we're figuring out the rhythm.
Exactly. This episode 0, everybody. I think we're doing great so far.
Let's not throw it away.
Nobody's cursed yet. What do you think makes queer people extraordinarily valuable in our work, Peter?
You know, as you were talking, and as I've been thinking about that very question, the answer keeps changing. I think we are one of the, and let me just pick one thing, and that is that we are confronted right now with language problems. Like we were just talking about it, like the pronoun thing. And has like these interesting two sides to it. One is people are like, there's this sort of like cracking the whip, like you have to do this. On the other hand, I was reading a thing by Judith Butler the other day. She said that people need to kind of lighten up on the language piece, on things like pronouns, and treat it as fun. I don't mean to take it lightly, but rather enjoy it. We're in this position where the world is opening up in ways that were not there before. And we have the opportunity, because the world is in such turmoil, and because people are thinking about gender differently. And it's, in my mind, and this is controversial to some degree, I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude to trans people. Because trans people at the moment, over the past, I don't know, whatever years, have taken gigantic risks to assert their humanity.
Yes.
And the one trans person who is going to be on these couldn't make it today because she's in Germany. But I guess they don't have internet.
Yeah, not in Germany. No internet in Germany. Sorry,
yeah,
Germany.
She can give me grief for that later, if she will. But the point is that we get to think about language and like the word gender as genre, as type, as a dimension of one's humanity. And in cybersecurity, we have this question of like, is security what you do or what you are? I would argue that you are cyber. And I think that there are really interesting parallels between one's humanity and one's status as a professional, as a practitioner of something that is so deep, emotionally, intellectually, socially, economically, as cyber. And I think like the examination of those ideas, amongst all of so many others, is going to be really fruitful. And it's been helpful for me. And going back to like why, like one of the reasons I want to do this is explore these ideas with you guys, and also people in forums that are related to it. And we might have guests. We'll probably have like super smart people join us.
Oh, we'll have guests, lots of guests, but they're all going to be queer.
Yes.
All of them.
And in the industry. I've had people reach out to me and they're like, I'm queer. I make staples for a living. I'm like, you're not on the show.
I mean, cool. But all right. Anna.
Yeah, so what I think makes us very unique to being in cyber is the struggles that we go to on a day-to-day, right? It's not only once you're out, you're out and things are over now, right? It's making the decision that you want to be out with your people, right? Your day-to-day people deciding to come out in a professional environment, deciding to post it on LinkedIn, putting your pronouns, right? Because that could potentially have different repercussions that you weren't expecting. We're valuable because we acknowledge those challenges and still decide to move forward with who we are, because it's important to, again, give us that voice, give us that representation of who we are. And just because in your case, Amber, we have to use different pronouns doesn't mean that I'm not as valuable or that I don't have anything to bring to the table. To me, we are specific. Um, we have the world um, view in such a different manner because we have to constantly have our eyes open, right? In a way, even as they usually say, you have to sleep with one eye open. In our world, I think that is the case for queer people, right? We have to be constantly aware of not just the world around us, but the possible politics that come after it, the places that we want to visit, because we have to be
Hmm.
careful, the media that we post, and if we get challenged on, oh well, you're posting this because, right? And so we have a different perspective in the world, and I think that's why we're so much more valuable in cyber.
Yeah, you were saying this a little earlier as we were preparing for this episode, Anna, but I think you called out threat intelligence. Like we're just when you're in that mode of being aware of situations and pitfalls and things that could happen, like you're already naturally in that threat intelligence mindset. And I think that's totally one of the things that makes us so valuable in our field. So thank you.
Yeah, I think
Ye-
it's
Yeah. No, no, go. Keep talking.
no, but yeah, it's part of the, when we start talking about people and bring our passions together, they can see that, right?
Hmm.
And it's natural. You start analyzing people and you're like, okay, and as Peter was mentioning, we have to read the room, but that room sometimes is not a visual room. It comes to
Hmm.
listening, it comes to just even, and I tell you this, I've gone to a restaurant, walking in, it feels heavy. This is not a place for me to be. Let's move out, right? We
Yeah.
are so much more perceptive because we are able to read the room.
Hmm. No, great point. Thank you. Ian.
I'm probably spoiled because I sometimes haven't had to read the room because, you know, eh, I mean, I worked with someone years ago in a company where, when I was in my 20s, where it was perfectly fine to be out, and she had an office across from me, and I made some comment about my partner, now husband, and she just looked at me and she said, "You're gay?" She's like, "I had no idea." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't hide it, but I wasn't wearing a badge every day saying, 'Look at me.'" But when you're a white boy, it's very easy. When you're male, it's easy. I guess I pass. But at the same time, I think it's important to not deny or to wear a badge, or I don't know. I mean, in terms of why are we generally valuable to the industry, I'll just carp on at the same thing, that I don't want to have a team that was entirely hired from one frat house at a major university, because they all
Yep.
think the same and do the same and are the same. And that's
Hmm.
not to dit some of my favorite people were in frats at fancy universities. And some of them are really great, and some of them are really famous, and some of them do good stuff for our community or in general. But I don't want everybody to be the same. I don't want to look around and see everybody the same. And I think, that's some of the value we bring, is making people realize that we're not all the same, and that that's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. And
Yep.
there's been a lot of demonization lately in the US of DEI and diversity, which I think it just looks at things the wrong way. It's trying to
Hmm.
demonize something that is trying to scare people, but it's never scared me, and I have a hard time getting my head around why it's scary. So I'm hoping also, again, thinking of the topics that we've been discussing, there's going to be a lot of interesting things to discuss around that and around ways we
Yeah.
present ourselves, ways we appear in public. So, I mean, partially, I think we're valuable because we force a rethinking, but that means you have to be brave. But, I
Yeah.
mean, for me, it's like all you have to do in the US context is look at Stonewall to know why trans people are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
Great.
Marsha. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I think a
No,
lot of
great
people
point.
don't get it. They don't understand it. They don't realize how long this has been going on. It's just the latest
Yes.
bandwagon to jump on to otherize people so that they can try and make people hate each other for political gain.
Yeah.
And it's depressing. So, maybe this will help a little bit. Or maybe I'll get demonized, but I don't actually care.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, how much
Yeah.
courage should you have to be yourself? I have to
Mm.
exercise, and probably, the three. I'm having to count how many people are here. The three of you probably have to exercise more courage than most to be who you are. As a bisexual man, who people are like, "You have a wife? How's that work?" I'm like, "Come on." It's there's a lot of risk in
I love
this,
it.
right? Yeah, I like the math people. But what I think, taking this back to the next point, and actually I have a natural segue. Do you want to ask the question anyway?
Well, I get to answer
Oh,
this last question
I'm
first.
blowing the sequence again. Hit it.
Nah, it's cool. It's cool. Actually, I kind of wanted to take the opposite side of what Anna was talking about with threat intel and talk about how amazing queer people are at OSINT.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have seen in this field, there's someone, I will not name him at the moment because I would love to get him on the show and I don't want to call him
Amber,
out,
but let
but
me cut you.
yeah, do it. Cut me
Let's
off.
not use OSINT. Let's use the whole vocabulary in case that people are listening that are not familiar with that term.
I appreciate that call out. Thank you. So open source intelligence, when you can find information freely out there that lets you put together a good picture of something, is amazing. And I happen to know someone who has a very special badge from DEF CON for OSINT that I would love to have on this show. If he sees this, he can contact me. But we, as queer people, in different parts of our life, in just finding welcome situations, finding other people, and dare I say, I want to separate queerness from romance and sexuality, as Peter and I were kind of talking about before, but in a romantic sense as well, figuring out if someone is approachable even. And it's like, let me go through the social media, let me dig through the things, let me find what clubs they were in college. We learn how to do open source intelligence so early in our lives to make sure that we're putting ourselves around the right people and that we're approaching people in the right way that's not going to be offensive or harmful to ourselves or them, that we're really damn good at it. And I found a lot of queer people in the community that are just amazing at it. Ian, you are
I have to say that I'd never thought of that. And I love that I'd never thought of it.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to say, OSINT when your gaydar's not working. And it's because mine doesn't. And I think about how I approach, finding out more about people, not just in this context, but in general. And you're completely spot on. And I'd never thought of it before. And we need an entire episode on it. So we need that guest.
I'll
I
write it
will
down.
help
I
with the
know.
guests.
I know. I will work on it. I'm really hoping I can get him. We'll see. All right, on to our next. And Peter, I know you have something that you're holding in your brain, and I can't wait to hear it. Just to review this question, what would it mean to succeed in our mission? How would the profession be improved? And this is something I do want you to kind of elaborate on, Peter, because you started this train of thought about the phrase, what if we win?
Yeah.
And I just want you to kind of cover that briefly, that conversation you were having in the chat about, what if we win means? What does that question mean?
I think it's a question that I started asking around cyber. a long
Yeah.
time ago because I got tired of people losing better. I mean, I'm a radical by nature. And by radical, I mean to seize the root, find out what is the actual problem or problems. Usually it's a set of them, but like get to that and deal with it instead of like losing better all the time. I'm tired of losing better all the time or losing it all because eventually that stops working and you're dead. So there's we're going to be looking for these parallels between what we do in cybersecurity and what we do in the queer community and at the intersection. So to me, well, here's part of my background is political activism with the radical left, Trotskyists, people like that, Fourth International types. We won't get into that here, but one of the things that they're very keen on is the idea that you can't liberate people from above and have it stick. And this is the problem with DEI. DEI professionalized the struggle, and there was no grassroots movement to go with it. And so it became professionalized. Because it became professionalized, it became enforced and authoritarian, and it fell apart. And now it's a laughingstock. So I don't want to be I don't want to be a leader in that sense. I just want to start it and come along. We are going to have to, as a community, decide what success looks like. I can sketch it. I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land, right? I may not get with you. It's an important thing to remember. Read that speech and think about what Dr. King meant. And I might not get there with you. This might take longer than I have left, or any of us have left. But if we think in those terms and a longer time horizon than we're used to thinking about, the election cycle being one, the decade being another, it might take 100 years. But I would like to be there to be a world where people are seen as valuable because they're different, kind of like you've all said. But I want people to see the kinds of things that are essential, sort of essential, or part of queerness that make us valuable and such that we're invited in, and for people to know why, not just because. I think we need to grow beyond in our understanding and perceptions of each other and of us, beyond there's value in diversity. To I mean, one of the things was suggested was being able to read a room, being hyper aware of threats all the time, and having that muscle. What happens when we're not under threat all the time, though? What happens if queer people are no longer what you call an oppressed class? What do we keep? And there's something about us that is not about sex. Asexual people are queer. Demisexual people are queer. I've had wonderful kind of platonic romances with people, no sex at all, right? Queer relationships. What is that? And I think we need to figure that out. So having clarity around like what it is to be queer, what is cybersecurity as a personality type, as a kind of human being, I think that's what I'd like to see. But I want to hear what everybody else has to say on that front, because we're going to figure it out.
No, definitely. It's, I feel like kind of some pseudo summarizing what you were saying here. It's like, what would happen, it's what happens if you're no longer just in survival mode. And we've so long talked about that, even in cybersecurity's field, like what happens if we're actually able to be proactive in our field and just research and just do amazing things instead of literally just racing to keep up with the baseline and not just get like the worst things patched and have everything on fire.
What if we didn't depend on the problem, the perpetuation of the problem, for a livelihood?
Like what if
when
we
things
could
get better, some of us get nervous.
Or what if people start listening? Is true on both sides of,
exactly.
Because in cybersecurity, what if people start listening and actually thinking about security as they build something from the ground up? And so then the same thing, what if people start listening to what we have to say in all the other contexts we're talking about? What then? And sometimes, it's like, oh, people started listening, now what? So there's a lot of interesting parallels there. that we can
Definitely.
explore, you know?
Yep. All right. I'm going to move this along to Anna. Just what would it mean to succeed in our mission? You know, how would our field be improved? In other words, you know, what if we win?
It's interesting because ultimately each brain is it's a world, right? And what does winning mean to Peter may be different for me.
Of
I think
course.
for me the definition of winning in the queer community will be we don't have to come out. We just love.
Hmm.
We just are. We don't have to put labels, right? Go ahead and respect what everybody wants to do, which is freedom of everything else, right? We have freedom of religion in certain in the US. We're talking about the US, at least in Mexico as well, right? Um, we have freedom to choose because, and sometimes it's not choosing, we just are who we are, right? Winning in my eyes would ultimately be that we are at the table to make decisions because we're conscious of everything else, right? So if I am empowered to determine healthcare, I know I can not only see binary, right? I have to consider the different spectrums that fall into it. I know that if um,
Hmm.
if I'm in leadership position and I want one of my employees tells me that they need time off because their child is sick, I also have to be considerate of the person that their pet is sick, right? Because we're not always in that same area of interest as you may say. So to me, winning is just we don't have to fear. We can be and go as we please in different parts of the world because we're not chased after or even possibly killed just for being who we are. Um, but at the same time, bringing that awareness and that history to today, every day, right? We don't forget about the riots. We don't forget about what happened in Orlando at the club. We don't forget that things continue to be affected on our current lives, right? Not just too long ago, I was talking with some friends letting me know that they had to have pictures of their best friend on their desk because they couldn't come out, right? And they had to pretend to be in a marriage because it's easier than being asked or assumed to be in the queer community. So it should be just normal for us to acknowledge to live our day to day and be happy, but bringing history and making it available and ensuring that those books and those movies and those stories don't get taken away from libraries because then we're taking away history and we're taking away knowledge and we're taking away what really we want to build upon, which is the foundation of who we are today, right?
That's great, Anna. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was
And,
a really thoughtful answer.
you
Thank
know,
you.
erasing the past is how you distort the future, and how
Yeah.
you repeat things over again. And that's scary because the past has a lot of good and bad examples of
Mm-hmm.
things. And it's like, you know, you ignore the past and you distort the future.
Or repeat
So,
the past.
well, that too,
There's that piece
which
as
I'm
well.
more scared about at the moment.
Yeah, that's the even scarier one for sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ian,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this question?
you know, I'm not sure I certainly don't have as moving an answer as Anna did. So, you know,
Yeah, Anna blew
that's
us all
why
out of the water. It's fine. It's
that's why
cool.
I'm reduced to sort of, pontificating on what she said. You know,
No,
it's a
that's
good
fine.
question. I'm not entirely sure, which is part of the
Yeah.
fun of being here. It's like in order to have win, does that mean you have to have a winning situation or be winners? Do they have to be losers? And I don't think they do, but I'm not
No.
sure. What is it?
Yeah.
You know, does it really, does then it really mean that all these things we're worried about and thinking about that keep people awake at night or that get them persecuted suddenly are all gone away? What does that mean?
Yeah.
How does that affect who we are and what we are? But then I look back 100 years at, and I'm always using different lenses of other people, women.
Hmm.
100 years ago, in Western countries, women started to get the vote. Are they equally represented now? even in countries that are really progressive in that way, like, in Scandinavia or Iceland or Finland, they mandate 50% of women on boards or 50% of women in parliament because it doesn't happen naturally. So why doesn't it happen naturally? So did they
Mm-hmm.
win, or are they
Right.
still winning and it's 100 years or more?
Yeah.
And so I'm here to
Yeah.
like explore that sort of lens, I suppose, and
I
all the
mean,
other things that
yeah.
come from that.
Yeah.
So I don't
mean,
have
Let
an answer. I don't
yeah.
know what it means, to be
yeah.
honest.
Comment on the word win. It has one syllable.
Yes.
Succeed has two. I'm lazy. That was it. No, I mean,
So fair. It's
what
perfect
are
perspective, right?
the people who hate us don't understand that if we win, they win too.
That's, yeah.
Hmm.
Don't steal my answer, Peter.
Yeah,
Don't
we
steal
win.
my answer.
Yeah, sorry. That's right. You
I'm
sequence
teasing.
again.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I wanted to make a comment to Ian though. To heck with the vote. Women couldn't have a checking account for themselves till the
Hmm.
70s.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's
I
Arguably, I
found
shouldn't have
that
a
Is
checking
out.
it?
account.
Is it winning? And I think that's the other question here. Like, is it winning to have the same ease of life as someone who is just the nice vanilla heterosexual and doesn't have to go through all of these extra steps to be understood by the world around them? Is that really
Right.
winning? Like, and that's something I want to call out. When I think about this, it's maybe it's winning because it's not just us winning. I was talking a little bit to Peter about this. Like, if people are able to, it's so cliche, like open their minds, broaden their understanding enough to not expect you to have to go through all these extra performative steps to explain who you are and how they should interact with you, and people just know to ask, or they just don't assume that you have a significant other who's of a specific gender, or they don't assume that because you look a certain way, that's how you want to be addressed. Then it opens up not just our opportunities in not feeling like we have to put all of this effort into interacting with the world, but it makes everybody's lives easier. It
Yeah.
lets people, I feel like so much of this helps break down other expectations around, down to the silly, like, girls can't play with boys' toys and boys can't play with girls' toys, and like, you can't wear those colors and she can't wear those color. Like, even getting to that, for someone who's absolutely 100% super vanilla hetero, I think they still win too in this situation, because it means everybody can feel more themselves, whatever that means. So that's what winning means for me. It's expanding people's understanding and empathy so that everybody wins, because they're able to express themselves and be themselves more comfortably without having to also feel like they have to explain and apologize about everything that they are.
Yeah.
Makes me
And
think of something that Anna said. Sorry. Makes
Mm-hmm.
me think of something that Anna said about
Yeah.
things aren't black and white, which is another
Mm-hmm.
commonality between cybersecurity, where things aren't really black and white, and everything else we're talking about. Things aren't black
Yeah.
and white. But when you try and force everything into black and white or pink and blue or whatever you want to say, it really, it's ignoring 90% of everything,
Mm-hmm.
because there's really only a few things at the end of a spectrum. You know, there's a
Yeah.
lot in the middle, and it's like, what are we,
Yeah.
why are we ignoring 90% of everything?
Yeah. Great
there
point.
is
Great
there's
observation. Go ahead, Peter.
there's no reference architecture for our lives,
I love it.
right? And if we think about, I was
No.
listening to like a podcast with Kinderberg last night, and he talks about how reference architectures were useful in the 90s when you just like plug in different IP addresses and go on to work. They're
Mm-hmm.
obsolete. We have to invent constantly. And so when I pose the challenge, like, what does winning look like? What does success look like? And it might be 100 years in the future. I fully expect that I'm wrong today about that, but I do know that directionally we need to aim for something that is bold, and we are in the midst of a revolution, like whether we like it or not. And if we don't seize control of our part of it for the benefit of most of us, because there are some people who hate us, right? They just do. They are invested in the status quo. They're invested in our oppression. They're invested in keeping us quiet and maximizing friction so that we're not effective, because they don't want things to change from how they want it. We have to envision a future and know that it will change, and it has to come from the grassroots. It has to be ours collectively. The wins along the way, great. Great stuff. Hopefully we'll have some laughs. This podcast, this has never been done before.
It's breaking barriers. And one thing that is important for us, which I think we agree on, and our audience to understand, like Amber said, right? The winning of us is the winning of everyone. And Peter, what the people that don't like us want to say is, when they win, we lose. And that perception is usually what divides us. That's where we lose support. You think because us having just the basic human rights is going to take away from you, you're not even understanding what human rights are then, because or in return you think that we're less of human, right? That constant separation of dehumanizing others so that it's easier for them to break away from us and say, I keep my hands away from this because this is not something that pertains to me, a human.
Yeah. You mean you're not a line on a spreadsheet?
No,
right?
It's about
the
it's
power
about
of
division.
and, Peter, the power of and.
Yeah. Well, it's about division. Divide and conquer. That expression didn't appear in English.
Absolutely.
It appeared many, many years ago, and that's how you look at everybody else and you create division so that they can't unify against you. And that's what's going on. It's scrambling to create division. I mean, whether it's in this context of of everybody should be like me, or in the context of everybody should be like me politically, or in their sexuality, or in their gender, or in their idea of gender expression. It's like divide, 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 divide. And it's like when people are unified against that, it falls apart. So, to me, it's about overcoming division that other people are trying to impose on us.
Great. So we've gone through our questions.
Yeah.
I just want to summarize a little, Peter. We've gone through our questions, which was what we wanted to achieve in this first episode. So if we have any closing comments, I think we should do them. We've just hit about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is great. Good start, everybody. Excellent job. Woo! So
this is just for us to get started, right?
I know, we're just getting warmed up. But we already got like 3 more topics for podcasts out of this one podcast, so that's great.
Exactly.
So yeah, Peter, do you want any closing comments? I do set you up as our one of our de facto leader, because you were the one who came up with this idea. So we'd love to hear your thoughts and maybe close us out.
I'm just a fag with a microphone. Here's what I want to leave everybody with. One, I love you. I do this for love. Yeah. With that, I cry easily. It's a capability. It's a skill, and I think it's important. And it's funny. It is. So a couple of just like logistic things. One, I don't know what podcast platform we're going to put this on. If you download this and you don't see it in your podcaster, because we haven't figured it out yet, but we're rock and roll, right? This is just punk rock. And we prioritize like getting it done over polish, and that usually is the right thing to do. We have a Discord. It's the Nearshore Cyber Discord. Nearshore Cyber is, I guess, we're the sponsor of this thing, even though we're not really spending much money on it. But there's a Discord and there's a channel there called Queer in Cyber. If you want to be a guest, again, you got to be like in cybersecurity. You got to be some variety of queer, and there are lots of varieties. Hit us there. Amber is our producer. The rest of us, I don't know what to call us, but it doesn't matter. Couple of other things. We have a LinkedIn page. If you're watching this, you probably know that. But that's just a start. I don't know what else we're going to do with this. We'll figure it out. This may be enough. But I want to thank you if you are listening or watching. And I especially want to thank Amber, Ian, Anna. You'll see Ray Tierney, who is a hero of mine. She'll be on next time. I'm confident there'll be an episode, I don't know, 0.01. We'll decide later. But yeah, I think it's a great place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I can't believe we all got through this. It's amazing.
This is great.
Awesome.
It was good.
Woo! All right. Take care, everybody. I'm going to cut this off.
Thank you.